Drakon's voice stupefied Jacob for a few moments. He quickly put the phone down and rushed to the balcony and saw the familiar black Chevrolet parked in front of his dorm. He went back into the room without thinking much and threw on some clothes and shoes. Jacob then picked up his phone and sprang out of his dorm and rushed downstairs. Drakon was in the driver's seat while Helen was in the passenger seat. Sophie was sitting in the back with a frown on her face. "Why are you here?" Jacob asked in surprise. "We are going on a weekend trip, and we are here to pick you up," Drakon responded calmly. Jacob was shocked at Drakon's assumption that he would readily agree to something like this. He began fishing around for an excuse. "Today, I'll have Liam speak to the school if there is something you need to do," Drakon said. Jacob struggled for a bit before he finally gave up. "All right, it's not a big deal. We don't need to speak to the vice principal." "Okay," Drakon nodded. "Get in the car," Helen smiled at Jacob. Jacob opened the door awkwardly and sat in the back beside Sophie. He had no other option but to spend the weekend with his in-laws and his fiancée. "Mom, why are we taking him? You said it was going to be a family trip," Sophie complained. "Isn't Jacob a part of our family?" Helen said softly. Sophie didn't know what to say. She thought about it, and Drakon interrupted just when she was about to argue again. "We'll just go back home if you keep complaining. You can go do your homework then." That threat certainly worked at suppressing her temper as she stopped arguing. She was not happy, though. Sophie thought that she was finally going to get a break from the chaos of the past few weeks. "Jacob, you haven't had breakfast yet, have you?" Helen turned around and asked gently. "It's okay. I'm not hungry," Jacob answered. "Open up the bag, Sophie. Give Jacob a sandwich," Helen said. Sophie opened the Ziploc bag and kept it open for Jacob. He took out a ham and cheese sandwich and said, "Thank you." Drakon pulled out of the college driveway and cruised along the empty roads. Sophie lurked in the corner and kept her distance from Jacob. It had nothing to do with Jacob, though. She just wanted a quiet weekend away with her parents and not think about her marriage for some time. But it was obvious that wasn't going to happen with Jacob accompanying them. They soon touched the highway, and each one of them was enjoying the smooth ride. Since no one was talking, the long drive and similar views outside the window were starting to make everyone sleepy. Both Jacob and Sophie began dozing off. Jacob was sleepy anyway because of all the running practice and the late night with Kathy. As for Sophie, it was due to her excitement of the trip today that made it difficult for her to go to sleep last night. The comfortable seats of the car made her want to sleep as well. As they dozed off, their bodies leaned towards the middle of the back seat, and they ended up holding each other without realizing. "We are here." A crisp voice woke them both up. Jacob and Sophie slowly woke up as they realized that they had been holding each other for hours as they slept. "Oh my God!" exclaimed Sophie, embarrassed as she woke up next to Jacob, his arms wrapped around her. She had a sound sleep, too, and that made her feel even more embarrassed. They both quickly recovered from their stupor and focused on the destination. The surrounding view of green mountains and clear waters soon put a happy smile on her face. Jacob wiped the drool from his mouth and got out of the car too. He realized that they were at the foothills of a green hill. "What place is this?" asked Jacob. "Wildcat Mountain," Helen answered. "Wow!" Jacob was surprised at how pretty it looked. Wildcat Mountain State Park in Wisconsin was a haven for hikers and campers. Though Jacob had heard a lot about it, he had never bothered to make a trip here. "Let's go to the top of the mountain today and climb back for the stay," said Helen. "Huh?" Jacob was surprised. He was still coming to terms with the idea of this spontaneous trip, and now to hike all the way to the top and climb back down, and to stay with a dragon family, it was all too much. Jacob couldn't run away, even if he wanted to, because he didn't know how. He wasn't even sure if any bus would take him back. Plus, he had made a commitment to protect Sophie. How could he back out now? Sure, the plan seemed a bit forced, but it was all to bring the family together. Jacob sighed and tried to get comfortable with the situation. "Let's put our belongings down at the hotel first," Helen suggested. Drakon put away the car key as he nodded. He took the large traveling bag from her and headed towards the hotel nearby. Although Drakon didn't talk much, Jacob could feel the tacit understanding and loving relationship between him and Helen. "Here!" Sophie stuffed her backpack into Jacob's arms and skipped behind her dad. Jacob felt a little awkward knowing that he had to stay with them for 2 days. However, there was no way back at the moment. He threw Sophie's backpack onto his back and followed them to the hotel with a shrug. Drakon paid for 2 rooms, and suddenly something dawned on Jacob. They wouldn't make me share a room with Sophie, would they? Jacob thought to himself. "Let's go." Drakon patted him on the shoulder after noticing Jacob's hesitation. Jacob suddenly realized that he would be sharing a room with Sophie's dad, and Sophie would be in the other room with her mom. "What was I thinking?" Jacob mumbled to himself as he walked into the room with Drakon. Their rooms were opposite each other. Jacob followed Drakon into the room and found that the rooms were elegantly decorated, even though they weren't too large. He pulled back the curtains, and the beautiful scenery of Wildcat Mountain came into view. A wave of fresh air caressed his face. He had never breathed in such clean air in the city. "Put everything down and freshen up a little before we start the climb," Drakon said to Jacob. "Okay." Jacob put Sophie's pink backpack on a chair and walked into the bathroom. He brushed his teeth as well as rinsed his face. He had left his dorm room in such a rush that he didn't even have time to do that. It was pretty embarrassing, come to think about. The 3 of them were already waiting at the door when Jacob stepped out of the bathroom. "So slow," Sophie mumbled. Jacob was amused at her anger and smiled lightly as he picked up her pink backpack and put it on his shoulders. He gave her a little nudge on the way out. She smiled for a split second and then became serious again. They all stepped outside the hotel and began exploring their whereabouts. Come on, let's begin the hike," Helen said as they reached the beginning of the trail. "Okay, let me give my grandma a call first. I was supposed to go visit her this weekend," Jacob suddenly remembered and took his phone out. He dialed home and told his grandma that he wouldn't be able to visit her this weekend since he was going out with his classmates. His grandma wasn't upset and told him to have fun. Jacob bit his lip as he lied to his grandma. Helen noticed the way Jacob spoke to his grandma and felt that he was affectionate and responsible. She was more sure than ever about this man marrying her daughter. "The air here is really fresh. You should bring your grandma here sometime. There is a homestay at the foot of the mountain. Children your age bring their parents here to escape the heat, as well as enjoy each other's company. The elders can play cards, chat, and try out some refreshing dishes. This place is pretty relaxing and popular," Helen said to Jacob as he hung up the phone. Jacob smiled at Helen. "I am so not ready to tell Grandma about Sophie, but Helen makes it sound all so simple," thought Jacob and sighed out loud. Plus, he didn't know how Grandma would react if she came to know he's marrying someone younger than him. "We are a family, so don't be so formal. Loosen up a little. Let's start the climb." Helen smiled at Jacob and began ascending, holding Drakon's hand.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.